more, we can speak to Todd Belt, a professor and director of the political management program at George Washington University. Professor, thank you for speaking to Paris Direct. Maybe some of our international viewers aren't familiar with it, but usually at events like this, Donald Trump would come out on the last day in previous years. It would be a big rally for his MAGA movement, for conservatives. He's not there this year. Are we reading too much into his absence?
Well, perhaps. Remember, he's got a war going on, and you can sort of give him some credit for trying to make sure that he's prosecuting that. And showing up for a rally would undermine the seriousness of the war. But it is that war that is actually the real dividing factor here. The members of CPAC are there in Texas, and not all of them are happy with the president. And a Pew poll just recently released showed that the real divide is among men above and under 35 years old. People over 35 who identify as MAGA Republicans are still firmly behind the president on the Iran war, and the ones below 35 are not. It's a real stark divide, and it is breaking up the Republican Party at a time when they're going into the midterm elections and they need unity.
Yeah, and for years, Trump has gone to this event, to CPAC, promising his followers that he was no fan of military action overseas. And here we are. The best headline I saw, Professor, coming from the New York Times, it said, quote, at CPAC, the America First crowd ponders giving war a chance. Is a war really going to register at midterm elections for voters, though?
Well, here's the thing about the use of force. Traditionally in US politics, we get what's called the rally around the flag effect, which is the president's popularity will usually skyrocket with the use of force, particularly because the media and the other party don't want to undermine the president's credibility or the military while they're in harm's way. But the president didn't prepare anyone for this. We got, a 2:30 in the morning video of him saying that the hostilities had started. He didn't prepare the American people, and he didn't prepare the international community by building a coalition, which is what presidents usually do. And so this really came out of nowhere. And there doesn't seem to be an end game to this. As Colin Powell always used to say, if you go in, you better have a plan for getting out. And we're hearing a lot of people at CPAC are saying, we don't know what the president's doing. We don't know what his goals are. And we don't know how he's going to get us out of this after he promised no more forever wars.
Yeah, on Thursday at CPAC, if there was anyone that was split on the war or anti-war, those voices might have been drowned out by a vocal group of Iranian Americans who have been boisterously celebrating the U.S. military operation. The son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi, has been making a lot of media appearances in the United States. But if there is an end game, and we were often talking about regime change early on in this war, and Reza Pahlavi's name being floated out there as someone who could succeed, why is administration or certain conservatives seeming to support this man when there's no clear indication that he would be who could possibly take power in Iran?
Yeah, you're right. There is no sort of any idea that he has the support of the Iranian people. It's his father who was the Shah. That was a long, long time ago. The Islamic Revolution was in 1979, and it's not clear that he would be popular back there. But the question is, who is going to be the next one? Obviously, we have the Venezuela model that the administration is working under, with the idea that the second in command may be somebody we can do business with. I think that he's going to be sidelined on this in terms of who we end up making a deal with and trying to stop the hostilities.
Yeah, when you say who's going to be the next one, we could also apply that for the MAGA movement. Donald Trump, this is his second and final term as president, assuming the Constitution isn't altered in some way. Is MAGA having any reckoning about what the future of their movement might look like and who will take up the mantle?
Right now, there's a real break among the CPACers. Some of them are behind Rubio, some of them are behind Vance, neither of whom are scheduled to speak, by the way. But traditional, you have somebody like Rubio, who is a more traditional interventionist Republican, who is more closely tied with this war and Venezuela, and of course, the threats against Cuba. And he has sort of a bunch of the interventionist CPACers are behind him. And then you have Vance, who now we're hearing was the lone voice of dissent within the cabinet against going into Venezuela and against the Iran war. And he may be able to sort of walk that line to try to make sure he gets the president's supporters, but at the same time say, I was the voice of reason and was the person who did not want to get into this war.
Yeah, and yet Vice President J.D. Vance also not present at CPAC, at least not expected to be there for this final day. Other people that are not there as well, MAGA media personalities, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. So CPAC has seen a lot of new faces, I guess you could say, this year. Anyone of note for our international viewers?
None that I've seen yet. Usually, you don't see a whole lot of brand new voices coming out of CPAC. You might find one or two that then get elevated on the stage when you have the national conventions. I don't see anybody at this point, but it's worth noting that the Republicans are talking about maybe doing a midterm convention during the summer. So stay tuned, watch those videos, and see if there's anybody who pops out. They might be elevated to another convention that we might have down the road here.
Professor, thank you very much. Professor Todd Belt from George Washington University. Thank you.